Shelley from One Roast Vegetable, and I'm just popping in on you today to talk to you just for a second about the Back to Basics class that's coming up. Registration starts next week on Tuesday, January 13th at 12 noon Eastern. Now, if you're interested in taking a Back to Basics class, it might be because you feel a bit lost in the kitchen, like there's so many details to keep track of, and you feel like every time you cook something it's sort of hit and miss, like does it work or not? Then you might like to take this class. Or maybe you're somebody who wants to cook more at home, try to reduce the takeout, the restaurant food, the packaged food, make a few more things homemade. This class will help you with that as well. And maybe you're trying to impress somebody, like yourself, or your husband, or your sister, or your neighbor. You know, I had somebody take a class from me once who told me that they were always invited to somebody else's house for dinner, but they never invited anybody to their house because they felt sort of crummy that they weren't a good cook. And she decided that that was bad karma. It was bad karma to always be invited somewhere else and never invite anybody in. And so if you're someone who doesn't invite people in for dinner often because you feel kind of nervous about your cooking skills, this Back to Basics class will be perfect for you. Now, if you wanted to take a class, you've got lots of choices. You could call up your local community center. You know how they sometimes run classes, cooking classes with the pottery classes and the dance classes at the high school in the evenings. But it might be tricky to find a real basics class. You could probably find one that was about baking bread or making sushi. But try to find a class that's actually teaching how to make chicken stock from scratch or how to roast a chicken, your very first roast chicken, a little bit tougher. The other thing about the community college, you know, after school classes is that you have to travel. And so depending on where you live, you have to travel a long way. And even if you live in a big city, you have to get in your car or get on the metro or the bus and go somewhere. So it might be nice if you could take a class that happened in your house. And no, I can't come to everybody's house. We've got modern technology now for that. But if you weren't going to take a class in a community college and you wanted to learn basics, I guess you could buy a cookbook. Although I don't know about you, but I've looked and there's not a whole lot of really basic cookbooks, like step-by-step pictures of every step of how to do things. One of the recipes I have on the Veggie Club site for tofu stir-fry has 20 photos. I don't think you can find a cookbook that gives that kind of attention and care and detail to make sure that you're following along and that you're successful. So you could buy a cookbook, that is true. You could also take an online class like this one. And so the way an online class is delivered is once a week you get an email letting you know that the new lesson has been posted on the website. And there's a private part of the website that is restricted access for just the people who've paid to get into the class. And then once you get into that little behind the door place, there's a blog. Posted is the lesson. It might be a video, it might be a recipe with step-by-step photos, and then there's a section for discussion, blog, you can post questions. So there'll be a little bit of interaction as well, but also you guys can help each other because I know there's lots of genius out there and it's not all in my head, I can assure you. So you'll get an email, and let's say that week it comes, your kids are sick. Then you do it the next week. This is a work at your own pace thing. There's no penalty if you don't do week one during week one. If you do 2 weeks at a time, it doesn't matter. And that's another thing that would be sort of a drag about going to a class where you had to travel. Because if you miss class, then you miss it. Whereas with this one, if you miss opening one of the emails one week, then you open it the next week and you do it whenever you get time. The other thing that's cool about these lessons is that I wanted to make sure that each week was a discrete chunk, small enough to handle. It's not like in week one we're going to talk about how to have a dinner party. We're going to do one thing at a time and they build on each other so that you're not overwhelmed. And you know, I know you're going to work at your own pace, but also it's really overwhelming to get like, here's week one, you've got 13 hours of homework. It won't be anything like that. It'll be nice and easy to manage in terms of the stress level, because I know that everybody's like busy, like really busy. So you want to know what we're going to cook, right? Eggs. Got lots of questions about eggs on the blog already. I gave you a tip already on hard-boiled eggs, but as soon as I did that, I got questions for how do you do a soft-boiled egg, poached egg. I have a special egg trick on how to check the temperature in your oven. We're going to do that one too. I have a recipe for quiche, all in the very very basics category. Then we move on to a second unit, which has to do with burgers. All of the best burgers I know, which include ground beef ones, but also ground turkey, a little bit more healthy, as well as things to serve on the side that are very basic, easy, successful, you'll be a star. And then we're going to do a chicken unit. This is all over the 14 weeks. We're going to roast a chicken. You really are. And you're going to like put stuff on it and stuff on the outside, stick it in the oven. And we're going to talk about what to do with the leftovers. So we're going to talk about making chicken salad sandwich. We're going to make chicken broth. Oh, there's lots of cool stuff. And then there's a tiny bit of baking at the end because, you know, baking's one of those areas where people are really hit and miss and have lots of struggles and trying to make things work. So I've got a really great bake-in-the-oven pancake that works fabulously every time. And I have a recipe for banana bread that you may know about already from the work that I've done with donating the banana breads to the women's shelter. So we're going to do the banana bread together, and we're going to do a modification version to make muffins as well. Banana muffins that you freeze well, that you then pull out in the morning and put in a lunch. Don't worry, you're going to be so organized. It's going to be fabulous. Now this class, this very first time we're running this class, I'm going to limit the number of people who go through to 50 because I'm training a new customer support person, and I want to make sure that there aren't any issues to do with being too big too soon, having a class where there's any kind of problem, any kind of technical problem. So I want to control the number of people who go through to make sure that everybody has a fabulous experience. The reason I'm telling you that is that when it comes time to register and you want to be in there, you need to know that my list is about 6,500 people, and there's 150 people who said yes, they want to take this class. And so you just want to get in sooner rather than later, so that you can be one of the first 50 people who go through. Is that it? I think that's it. If you have any other questions, you can send me an email. I've gone through my notes. I think I've covered everything I wanted to say today. And it's been fabulous popping in and visiting with you. And I hope that we'll see you soon on the inside doing the Back to Basics class. Thanks. Bye.